In the last three classes, we were discussing from ninth chapter, which was entitled as the most confidential knowledge or Rajavidya Rajaguya Yoga. And today onwards, we'll discuss 10th chapter, which is called as the opulence of the Supreme or the Vibhuti Yoga. So, in the beginning of the ninth chapter, we were discussing about whatever Lord Krishna spoke in the first six chapters, that is considered to be the confidential knowledge, Guhya Yoga, and then whatever he discussed in the seventh and eighth chapters, specifically about Bhakti. Since in the previous three chapters, he's talked about mostly Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga. As a result, attaining Sayujya Mukti. And then in the seventh and eighth chapters, Lord Krishna spoke about Bhakti Yoga. In that Bhakti Yoga, also there are six kinds of Bhakti. Bhakti performed by those who are distressed, those who are in need of wealth, those who are seeking some knowledge, that is called Karma Mishra Bhakti, and Bhakti performed by those who are already in knowledge, that is called Jnana Mishra Bhakti, and Bhakti performed by those who are seeking after liberation, that is called Yoga Mishra Bhakti, Moksha Kamis, and finally Lord Krishna also talks about Ananya Bhakti, introduces the concept of Ananya Bhakti, that is pure bhakti, bhakti without any tinge of karma or jnana. So in that way, Lord Krishna spoke about different shades of bhakti and their attainment in the form of Sarishti, Salokya, Samipya and Sarupya in different variety of Vaikuntha planets. And by the performance of Ananya Bhakti, one can attain in higher rasas, Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vasalya, Madhurya, and those who worship Lord Krishna they attain perfection in Goloka Vrindavan also. So like that they have been introduced. So but basically the seventh and eighth chapter Lord Krishna spoke about that kind of knowledge which is necessary to practice that bhakti which will give them liberation in Vaikuntha in all the five rasas. But now Lord Krishna says that in the ninth and tenth chapters, now I am going to speak about that special knowledge which on our own, even in spite of reading all the Vedic literatures, we will not understand it. This is called Guhyatamam. It is the superlative degree, the best of all knowledge, the most super excellent knowledge, and which is specifically going to talk about that knowledge, hearing which a person becomes qualified to practice Ananya Bhakti, practicing which a person becomes qualified to become an eternal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, in his spiritual abode, Goloka Vrindavan, in one of the four topmost rasas, that is uh, Dasya, Sakya, Vasalya, Madhurya, and service can be rendered in intimacy, not in on reverence, but intimacy. So that knowledge required in order to go to the topmost spiritual world has been mentioned in the ninth chapter and will be continued to mention in the 10th chapter also. And specifically in the ninth chapter, in the beginning verses, Lord Krishna talks about knowledge, the powers with which one becomes qualified to understand that Krishna is all in all and rendering bhakti to him is the perfection of one's life. That he mentions in verse number 4 to 10 in the first few verses. Then he talks about different variety of people who worship him, who don't worship him, and specifically talks about in few verses about his own devotees who, having understood this knowledge, the power of the Supreme Lord, render unalloyed bhakti unto him. Wherein he says in 13th verse, Mahatma nasu mam partha daivim prakriti mashrita bhajanti ananya manaso jnatva bhutadim aviyam. Because they know that jnatva bhutadim and the source of both material and spiritual worlds, and also and the source of all the living entities that are there in the material world, bhutadim, and I am eternal. I am not, just because somebody may interpret that everything in the material world is having a beginning and having an end, and the source of all the things that are there in the material world also can be having a beginning and having a end, not like that. Though he may be the source of all the things of the material world, but he has no beginning and no end. He is actually Avayam, eternally exists in the spiritual world, and he is he is inviting all of us to that eternal spiritual world. How? Bhajanti Ananya Manaso. By engaging our mind and body in Ananya Bhakti, we will become qualified to come back to Godhead. Then the question comes, how to engage our mind and body in Ananya Bhakti? That is mentioned in the next verse. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dudavrata namasantascha mam bhaktya nityayukta upasate. Engage our body in namantasya, offering obeisances and decorating the deity, decorating the temple, etc., etc., and engage our mind and senses. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha. Satatam kirtayanto mam means always engaged in hearing and discussing the wonderful qualities, form, pastimes, and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and also endeavoring to perform all other activities of bhakti, all other angas of bhakti like Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Mandanam, Dastam, Sakyam, Ahatam, Nivedanam. Like this, we have to use our mind and body in executing all these 9 different angas of bhakti. How? Dudavata, with proper determination and accepting the execution of bhakti as a vow, as a lifetime vow. So, Mam Bhaktya, one should perform bhakti unto me. So, like that, Lord Krishna indicates that how to execute bhakti. So, then he speaks about others who worship bhakti, and he also speaks about how one should not perform bhakti by worshipping devatas as the independent controllers, etc., etc. And in verse number 22, Lord Krishna specifically says that if at all any person renders such kind of bhakti unto me, I will take care of them as long as they live in this material world, and also I will take care of them. They are coming to my spiritual world, and also I will take care of them in my spiritual world. 3 things Lord Krishna takes care. That he mentions that Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ejana Paryupasate. Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamiham. Those devotees who, by cultivating a desire to become my eternal associate and serve me eternally in my eternal abode, in one of the top rasas, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, and I will take care of their yoga and kshema. What is that? I will take care of their material necessities in the material world by providing what they lack and by preserving what they have. I will also take care that they will come to my spiritual abode, overcoming all the obstacles, and I will also take care of their happiness and continued satisfaction and service in the spiritual world. Thus, when a devotee surrenders to Supreme Lord completely 100%, Lord takes care, Lord takes 100% responsibility of caring of such devotees. That he mentions in the verse number 22nd. Then finally, in the verse number 25, he indicates that what is the law of the scriptures. The scriptures have established a law. They say that interrupting many times. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You are able to hear me continuously, or it is getting disturbed in between?
Continuously, Prabhuji, no disturbance.
Okay, some devotees have said that class is getting interrupted.
Internet connection was weak.
Yeah. Your local internet connection may not be proper, so kindly readjust, Prabhuji. Yeah. So the law of the scriptures is, whichever object we accept as our object of worship, that will be our end goal. Or whichever purpose with which we execute a particular activity, only that purpose is fulfilled. It is not that by doing something we'll get something else. So that Lord Krishna indicates, Yanti Deva Vrata Deva Pitrunyanti Pitrunvata Bhutani Yanti Bhutejya Yanti Madhyajinopimam. By worshipping Devatas, one will go at max to the Devatas abode. By worshipping Pitrus, one will go to Pitroloka. By worshipping Bhuta, Preta, Pishacha, Yaksha, Rakshasas, one will go to them. But by worshipping me, one will come to me. So this verse seems to be simple. whatever you do, you will get that. But one should know prior to that whom to worship and why to worship. That's why Lord Krishna indicates that yanti mad yaji nopimam. He indicates api. Api indicates that the special adjective. The all other destinations obtained in this material world, such as Devaloka, Pitruloka, or Bhutaloka, they are all temporary. They have a beginning and ending. But my abode is eternal. It is nowhere in comparison to any of these places, because before that in the previous verses he mentioned that how the Supreme Lord is separate from all the devatas, how the Supreme Lord is eternal in comparison to the temporary devatas. That's what he mentioned in the previous two verses, verse number 23 and 24. He actually mentioned that Epi Anna Devata Bhakta Yajanti Shraddhayanvita Tepi Mamiva Kaunteya Yajanti Avidi Purvakam. In one way, the Devata worshippers are also worshipping me. But if they consider while worshipping all the Devatas are my bodily limbs, then in that case they may attain me. But if somebody considers that Devatas and me are equal and the similar position, then they attain only Devata abodes. So that is called worshipping me in Avidhi Purvakam. Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhurev cha natumam abhijanati tatvenatas chavantite. Those who worship other devatas through the performance of yajna, through the performance of deity worship, etc., 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 but without having proper understanding that it is I who is the Lord of all the yajnas, it is I who maintain the devatas, it is I who provide the results of the performance of different people who want to get something by worshipping the devatas. It is I who give them through the medium of devatas. If one does not do this, they will fall down. Tatve natas, na tatve natas chavantite. One who does not know in tattva, they will actually fall down. So thus, having described who is he in comparison to all other deities of this world, now he speaks about how to execute bhakti in a simplistic way. Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upartam ashnami prayatatmana. This is the easy way of performing bhakti. Even can be possible that for the completely renounced people who are living in the forest also. But for those people who are living at home, who have a lot of household responsibilities, who have a lot of responsibility for society, then what they should do? Lord Krishna says, do everything that is required, but do it as an offering to me. Yatkaroshi yadashnashi yajyoshi tadashe tatkapashyati kaunteya tatkurushva madarpanam. Kindly do everything as an offering to me, by which every activity that you perform becomes an offering to me, becomes an anga bhakti. Otherwise, the performers of Nishkama Karma Yoga, they perform day-to-day activities, but whenever they perform some Vedic activities, they offer those Vedic activities to Supreme Lord. Not each and every day-to-day activity. But here Lord says, if you want to become qualified to be called as my devotee, then offer every activity to me. Offering every activity to Supreme Lord, that performance of those activities will qualify him as devotee, and all activities becomes bhakti. So that kind of execution of bhakti will deliver one from the bondage of both piety and impiety. Thus, Lord gives special attention to his devotees, and he is giving special attention to goes to the extent that when a devotee executes bhakti, considering Supreme Lord is all in all, even by accidentally, by mistake, if he commits the most abominable activities also, they should be considered sadhus, because even after committing an abominable activity, the devotee will continue to execute bhakti, and in the core of the heart he will think that for my sinful activities I will go to hell and suffer unlimitedly for unlimited number of years, but I will not give up Krishna as my Lord and Master. I will render bhakti continuously. So Lord says, for such kind of devotees, by entering into their heart, I will purify their heart of all contamination immediately. Thus, I will make sure that they will come to my spiritual abode and they will become my eternal associates because they exhibited their eagerness to serve the Supreme Lord. So, in that way. So, then not only the devotees who commit sinful activities, but even any common person, even a sinful person also, if they render devotional service by taking shelter of a guru, they will come to my spiritual abode. That Lord Krishna says in the 32nd verse. Mami parta vyapashritya epishu papa yonaya shriyo vaisha sada shudra tepi yanti paramgatim. Epishu papa yonaya. Even though if a person is born in papa yoni as a result of many sinful activities, but still, if one takes shelter of a bona fide representative of Supreme Lord, the bona fide guru of the Supreme Guru in the line of bona fide disciple section, representative of Supreme Lord, by executing devotional service under his guidance, they will come to my spiritual abode. Then what to speak of Sri, Vaishya and Shudra, who apparently have some lower tendencies? They can come easily. Then what to speak of Kim Punar Brahmana Punya, Bhaktya Rajarshya Tata? Pious Brahmanas and saintly Kshatriyas, they will obviously come to me. Then what to speak of my devotees who apparently or unknowingly commit some sinful activities? They will anyway come to me. That is my special mercy upon the living entities of this world. Having said this, finally Lord Krishna gives an instruction to Arjuna. He says that Anityam Asukam Lokam Imam Prapya Bhajasmam. So, having understood this, having come to this temporary miserable material world, please execute my devotional service. Anityam Asukam Loka Imam Prapya Bhajaswamam. Bhajaswamam, execute my devotional service. And the question comes, how to execute bhakti? Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evaishasi yuktaevam atmanam matparayana. Execute bhakti in these 4 ways. Manmana bhava madbhakto. Manmana. Render your execute, you engage your mind and intelligence in contemplating my pastimes. Mad Bhakta, be my devotee, execute my devotional activities, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasanam, Sakyam, Atmanivedhanam, etc. Mad Yaji, use your senses in variety of activities, preparing bhoga, worshipping my deity, etc., dressing my deity, bathing my deity, etc. All these things you do. Mam Namaskuru, use your body to offer obeisances to me and decorating the temple, cleaning the temple, etc. Mam e vaishasi yuktaivam. Performing all these devotional activities with a desire to become my eternal associate, yuktaivam, you will definitely come to my spiritual world. Atmanam matparayana. Because you have accepted me as your life and soul. So this is how Lord Krishna talked about the glories of Ananya Bhakti and the knowledge required to perform Ananya Bhakti in the previous chapter. By speaking all these things, he is actually inspiring us to practice Ananya Bhakti. And Lord Krishna now continues in the 10th chapter also. He continues to inspire us about practice of Ananya Bhakti. So now we'll just see what Lord Krishna wants to say in the 10th chapter. He says that starting from the 7th chapter, after revealing his powers, Lord Krishna spoke of bhakti of different types. Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti and Ananya Bhakti. Now in the 10th chapter, he speaks of the confidential elements of bhakti along with a description of his vibhutis. Now Lord Krishna going to speak about some confidential elements of bhakti along with description of various vibhutis. By knowing the powers of the Lord, one understands that the Lord is worthy of worship. So one question may come in the mind. Why Lord Krishna is repeating again same thing? Whatever he spoke in the 7th chapter, repeat in the 9th chapter, again is going to repeat in the 10th chapter. What is the need? So many years back during 1975, when Prabhupada was visiting Hyderabad, in order to open ISKCON temple, inauguration of the temple in Nampalli. So there was a Pandal program for which all the delegates of Hyderabad were invited. So among them, there was one Andhra Bank manager, one elderly gentleman, about 60 years old. And Prabhupada was speaking from Bhagavad Gita, and specifically from these sections of Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada was talking about Ham Sarvasya Prabhu Matam Sarvam Pravartate, etc. So Prabhupada spoke for a while. In between, suddenly this gentleman, the Andhra Bank manager, got up and he asked a question to Prabhupada. And he said that, my dear sir, why Lord Krishna is again boasting about himself in Bhagavad Gita? Generally, a person in knowledge will never boast about himself. So why Lord Krishna is unnecessarily boasting about himself again and again, multiple times? Every verse he is boasting about himself, his position, I am this, I am that, like that, like that, like that. So is it proper from Krishna's side? Like that, he kind of asked a challenging question to Prabhupada in the Great Assembly. Prabhupada kept quiet for some time, maybe a minute or something like that. Then Prabhupada, with a grave voice, his entire face became very grave, and in a grave voice, he told that this is Lord Krishna's humility. So Lord Krishna is thinking that how will the people will be able to understand about me if I don't explain about myself to them? Otherwise, they will never understand about me, and they will get different conclusions, and they end up doing something which is not meaningful. In order to help us understand who should be our object of worship, Lord Krishna actually repeating again and again from the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita to the end of Bhagavad Gita that who is he and who are we in relation to him and what we should do in order to get shelter at his lotus feet. This is the main motto or main motive of Lord Krishna speaking this entire Bhagavad Gita. So, in order to inspire us who Lord Krishna is describing about his powers again and again. That's why the statement says that by knowing the powers of the Lord, one understands that the Lord is worthy of worship. So here the question that is there in front of Lord Krishna is that Lord Krishna is again and again telling that please worship me, please take shelter of me. A Jiva can ask a question. What is your qualification to give me eternal shelter? Who are you to give me eternal shelter? So now it is Lord Krishna has to prove about himself. Who is he? And what is his position? What is his strength that he can give eternal shelter to Jiva at his lotus feet? Lord Krishna has to establish his position. Lord Krishna has to establish his credibility in giving us shelter at his lotus feet, which is completely purifying, completely satisfying, completely enriching, and which is eternal, without any interruption, without any limitation. In order to give us that conviction, Lord Krishna speaks about himself again and again in all over Bhagavad Gita, and specifically in 7th, 9th, 10th, 11th. These are the 4 chapters in which Lord Krishna specifically talks about himself. These 4 chapters completely talks about who Krishna is, what are his powers, what are his abilities in giving us eternal shelter. So this is the humility of Lord Krishna. So like that Prabhupada mentioned in that assembly, and everyone clapped for a long time, and that Andhra Bank manager sat with shame. So this is the intention in explaining this in these 4 chapters, the powers of the Supreme Lord. So thus the powers have been described starting from 7th chapter. Now the Lord will explain the powers in detail for the pleasure of those who have devotion. It is only devotees who will appreciate the powers of the Supreme Lord. Others who are envious of the Supreme Lord, they feel envy by hearing these powers of the Supreme Lord. Why he, why not me, why not me? That kind of envy comes in their mind and heart. But the devotees becomes very much pleased hearing about the Lord, hearing about the position of the Lord, powers of the Lord, strength of the Lord, again and again. They never get bored. So that is with that intention, Lord Krishna begins 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Here, in the first 7 verses, we can understanding Lord Krishna's unknowability, one serves him. By understanding Lord Krishna's unknowability, that means by reading Vedic literature, one can never understand about Lord Krishna. But here, Lord Krishna making himself understandable by us. So when we understand about him, we will execute bhakti. So that is what is mentioned in the first 7 verses. His origin is impossible to understand, for he is the source of everyone. One who understands this fact, they serve Lord Krishna with devotion. And then 8 to 11, the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita, the essence of entire Bhagavad Gita is kind of encapsulated in these 4 verses. And 12 to 18, Arjuna accepts Lord Krishna's position and requests Lord Krishna to speak of his opulences because he want to hear more about Lord Krishna. So he requests Lord Krishna to speak about his opulences in detail. Arjuna refers to previous authorities, thus he confirms Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are the things which we'll see from 12 to 18. Then from 19 to 42, Lord Krishna speaks about his own opulences. Lord Krishna describes the most prominent among his limitless, all-pervading opulences. Now, this is the overview of the entire chapter in 4 sections. The acronym given to this chapter is C. So, C, the opulence of the absolute truth. S stands for source of everything, Lord Krishna, source of everything. E stands for essence of Bhagavad Gita, 8 to 11. E stands for the all-pervasive aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How the Supreme Lord spread everywhere through his various vibhutis. That is 12 to 42. So, this is C. Seeing the unseen through his various powers and opulences. So then the Lord's Aishwarya, that is what is being described in this chapter, which is a cause of bhakti, which is an inspiration to start bhakti, which was discussed in chapter 8, 7th, chapter 8 and chapter 9, is further supported in the 10th chapter with the description of his various vibhutis. In the previous several chapters, bhakti has been described along with intermittent descriptions of Lord's powers. In the previous 3 chapters, 7th, 8th, 9th, bhakti is described, and in between some powers are described which will give inspiration to practice bhakti, which will give understanding of the Supreme Lord. Now in the 10th chapter, in order to manifest and increase that bhakti, in order to create that bhakti and increase that bhakti, that means in order to create inspiration to start bhakti and in order to increase our performance of bhakti, the Lord will describe in detail his extraordinary vibhutis, which were previously briefly discussed in 7 chapter verse number 8 to 12, 9 chapter verse number 4 to 10, and verse number 16 to 19. These are his various vibhutis and opulences which were described. How Lord is everything in this material world and spiritual world. These things are mentioned. So by understanding, now Lord Krishna going to describe them elaborately in this 10th chapter. So thus Lord Krishna begins this 10th chapter. According to the rule that the rishis speak indirectly, and the Lord is fond of such indirect statements, Paroksha Vada Rishaya Paroksham cha Mama Priyam. The Vedic seers and mantras deal in esoteric terms, and I also am pleased by such confidential description. So now Lord Krishna going to describe that Vedic seers have described in an indirect way. Now Lord Krishna going to describe them in direct way in this chapter. Here in this chapter also Lord Krishna is speaking about his Aishwarya, but indirectly is hinting about his Madhurya. Directly is speaking about Aishwarya in the many of the verses, but indirectly is hinting about his Madhurya, which will be the cause of performance of Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Understanding the Aishwarya Supreme Lord, one performs Vedi Sadhana Bhakti, but understanding the sweetness of the Supreme Lord, one executes Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. So Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti is indirectly mentioned Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti is directly mentioned in this chapter. So thus it is mentioned like this. So first verse, Lord Krishna starts speaking. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhuya eva Mahabaho Shrunu me paramam vacha Yatteham priyamanaya Vakshami hitakamyaya.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Listen again, O mighty armed Arjun. Because you are my dear friend, for your benefit I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I've explained earlier."
Yeah. So before starting discussion, so all of you are clear. We just had a summary of the entire ninth chapter, and then we just discussed the introduction about this chapter. Why Lord Krishna is speaking his powers again and again. If somebody has any query based on our previous class discussions or previous discussion, so we'll see and then we'll get into the chapter. If anyone has any query based on our previous discussions, can ask. Otherwise, we can move ahead.
हरे
Yes,
कृष्ण
yes, Prabhu.
प्रभु जी ने लास्ट वाले में बहुत हमने डिस्कस किया था कि जो भगवान का जो ये दिस चार रसा जो है 4 रसा,
हाँ.
दिस 4 rasa is not available in the Vaikuntha. Only
No. The 4 rasas are available in Vaikuntha, but the mood is Aishwarya, and reverence. They are available in Golok Vrindavan with the mood of Madhurya, intimacy. The mood is different. The rasas are there in both in Vaikuntha, both in Golok Vrindavan also, but the mood in which they are executed is different.
It means that the Madhurya also is there in the this Vaikuntha.
Yes, Mother Lakshmi is there. There are various Lakshmis are there in Vaikuntha.
And then paternal Madhurya.
Yes.
So is there also.
Yes. But their mood is Aishwarya.
Okay.
The service Mother Lakshmi renders is in Aishwarya Bhav. She knew who the Lord Vishnu is, what are the powers, position. I mean, they don't call Vishnu like Kana, thief, like that. They don't use. In Goloka, they don't know Lord Krishna is Supreme Lord.
Okay.
That is intimacy.
And Prabhuji, one more question. Before that, Prabhuji, we have discussed this. Those who are the pure bhakta, they are in that they generally does not worship these demigods. So when you see this Mahabharata story, that these Pandavas are sometimes just Yudhishthira Maharaj worship sun god to get the Akshay Patra, and then this Draupadi also once they worship in the Virat Parva worship sun god to protect her from the Kichak. So they are a pure devotee, but however they are always associated with Krishna. But in that condition, they worship sun god and not this Krishna. Why?
See, Prabhuji, there are two aspects to see it. See, what is the motive of Mahabharata? Mahabharata is written for whom? That is one aspect to see. And the second aspect, who are the people about whom we are discussing? Don't see the Pandavas as pure devotees alone. See them as the rulers.
Okay.
Yadyad acharati shrestha tattat eva itaro jana. That doesn't mean that they are doing something wrong. They know who Lord Krishna is, who Lord Narayana is, and who Indra is, Chandra is, Surya is. They never worshipped Indra, Chandra, Varuna, or Surya, any of Devatas, even Mother Durga before entering into that Virat Parva, that Ajnatavas, they never saw other Devatas as the Supreme Lord. They know the position of respect to Devatas, but as per the time, place, circumstances, whom they are supposed to take help from, they are taking their help. Understanding very well that all these Devatas are bona fide representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They never treated the devatas as equal to the Supreme Lord or superior to Supreme Lord. It is not like that. It is simple. In our day-to-day thing also, if somebody may know the chief minister by some acquaintance or by some relationship, one may know. But that doesn't mean that each and every small activity they no need to approach the chief minister. They can approach the local governance for the thing, whatever is supposed to be done. Or for example, it's like in a college or in a company, you may know CEO, but for everything you don't have to approach CEO. You have your own immediate manager and their manager, like that. In between, so many are there. For corresponding to corresponding thing, you can approach local people. But the final ultimate thing, which can only be given by the Supreme Lord, one should depend upon Supreme Lord. For local governance, you can take help from local governors. For each and every small thing, you don't have to go to the topmost person. So one should be careful about that also.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Actually, Prabhuji, I asked this question because I read somewhere this when Ramanujacharya once told ki if you caught in the fire in the forest, there is only hope to add a demigod. Better to die in the fire than to approach the demigod. So that is why I asked this, why this happened.
See, Ramanujacharya is talking about Ananya Bhakti.
Yeah.
Pandavas are talking about Karma Mishra Bhakti.
Okay.
Because they are kings. Ramanujacharya is sannyasi. He already given up the connection to the world. Okay? Yeah. And Ramanujacharya might be teaching this to his surrendered devotees who are also sannyasis. If Ramanujacharya comes to the midst of the public, he may not tell this directly. He will tell this to also common people only when they completely surrendered themselves to Supreme Lord, when they come to the stage of Ananya Bhaktas. But may not be to the beginner. The instructions are given according to the person who is there in front of you. Instructions should never be taken general. They don't apply for each and every person. We should see the time, place, circumstances accordingly and then do the needful.
Okay. Okay. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Prabhuji, in 9.27, Lord Krishna speaks this Yat Karoshi verse, and then 34th again he speaks Man Mana Bhav Mad Bhakto. So is that difference between them two, and or it's kind of looks to me repeating the same thing?
Of course, Lord Krishna repeats many things, but 27 is a specific instruction for Arjuna at that point of time. What you should do? Arjuna, my dear Arjuna, what you can do? Whatever you do, offer it to me. And 34 is a general instruction for everyone, those who want to become Ananya Bhaktas. Of course, 27 also for everyone, but keeping Arjuna in mind, he spoke. The 34 is like general instruction, because you see that before 34, 33 you should see. Anityam asukam lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam. Having taken birth in this material world, one should worship me. How to worship you? That in that context he is telling. Engage your body and mind. Specifically, this verse comes again and again in the 18th chapter. That time we elaborately describe what exactly the meaning, with what intent Lord Krishna is speaking this verse. But here, this 34th verse is a summary or the essence of the entire 9th chapter. It tells about how to execute Ananya Bhakti. It is a general instruction for everyone. Everyone can do this.
So why Lord Krishna repeat in 18th verse also means?
Prabhuji, that's what we discussed in the last half an hour. Why Lord Krishna is repeating? For our benefit, so that we'll understand. If you tell once, you may take it silly. If something is repeated again and again, we take it seriously. So Lord Krishna repeats the same thing again in the 10th chapter, again in the 11th chapter, again the 12th chapter, again the 13th chapter, 14th chapter, 15th chapter, 16th chapter, 17th chapter, 18th chapter. Every chapter in conclusion says that Bhajasvamam, worship me, worship me, worship me, worship me. For what? Because of so and so reason. He repeated 18 chapters saying same thing, worship me, worship me, worship me. In spite of that, people does not understand. That is our misfortune. Why he repeats again and again? Because we are not getting it. Just like Prabhupada repeats again and again that you are not this body, you are the soul. Why he has to repeat? Because we are not gotten it. So that's why.
Okay.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead. So now, the 10th chapter, first verse, Lord Krishna says, Bhuya eva Mahabaho. My dear Arjuna, mighty armed one, I want to speak to you once again. Here Lord Krishna says that I am not satisfied with what I have spoken to you in the previous chapters. Shrunme paramam vaja. Please hear about my topmost words. These are like Lord Krishna qualifying what is going to say as paramam vacha. The best of his words. I want to repeat once again, because my dear Arjuna, you were known in this world as the mighty armed, the very highly skillful person in archery. But now I want you to become the highly skillful person in the matter of hearing and ascertaining what is the best knowledge among all the variety forms of knowledge. You must have heard from many people till now, but now I want to give you the topmost knowledge, the best knowledge, Rajavidya and Rajaguhya. And I want you to ascertain the essence of that knowledge, what I am going to speak to you now. Yatteham priyamanaya, because you are my dear devotee and friend. That's why I want to speak to you. Vakshami hitakamya. And as a dear friend of yours, I desire your well-being. For that reason, I am going to speak to you. Hitakamya, for your well-being. So with this intention, Lord Krishna starts the 10th chapter. Because this knowledge is somewhat difficult to comprehend, the Lord speaks it again, Bhuya. Again hear my words. Again I will speak about the king of knowledge, the king of secrets, Rajavidya and Rajaguhya. These words are even superior to what I have spoken previously. I speak these words to you in order to cause you astonishment. I will speak to you because you are filled with prema for me. You are my dearmost devotee. I will speak with a desire for your welfare in the form of producing and increasing your devotion for me, in the form of producing Ananya Bhakti in you, and in the form of increasing the existing Ananya Bhakti in you. So for both the purposes, the knowledge spoken in this chapter will be useful. In order to start Ananya Bhakti in somebody's heart, and in order to increase that Ananya Bhakti in somebody's heart. With these two intentions, Lord Krishna begins discussing the 10th chapter. So here, Srila Prabhupada writes in the last paragraph of this first purport. Prabhupada says, the more one hears about the Supreme Lord, the more one becomes fixed in devotional service. One should always hear about the Lord in the association of devotees. That will enhance one's devotional service. Discourses in the society of devotees can take place only among those who are really anxious to be in Krishna consciousness. Others cannot take part in the discourses. The Lord clearly tells Arjuna that because Arjuna is very dear to him, for his benefit, such discourses are taking place. So this is the intention. So the discourses will take place only in the like-minded people, in those places where devotees assemble together with a desire to know about the Lord more and more, with a desire to increase their understanding of bhakti and execution of bhakti. That's why devotees congregate every Sunday in the temple and one of the weekdays in their respective area for satsang programs. So when devotees come together with intense eagerness to understand about the Lord and bhakti, that bhakti and the Lord will manifest in those discourses. That's why Srimad Bhagavatam says that Satam Prasangam Mamavirya Samvido. So Lord Kapila says that when the great souls, the satas, the sattvic personalities assemble together with an intention to hear about my qualities and activities and pastimes, Mama Virya Samvido, the true potency of my Guna, Rupa, Leela and Nama will manifest in that assembly. Because in that assembly, everyone is eager to know about the Supreme Lord, everyone is eager to understand about the Supreme Lord. So by his causeless mercy, Lord will manifest that understanding about himself in the heart of each and every devotee who is sitting there. When that understanding manifests, they will render bhakti easily, because of which Anartha Nivrutti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Bhava, and Prema, everything one after the other will manifest in due course of time. Satam prasangam mamavirya samvido bhavanti ritkarna rasayana kata tad joshana dashu apavarga vartmani Shraddha Raktir Bhaktir Anukramishyate. In step by step, Shraddha means Nishtha, Rati means Asakti, Bhakti means Bhava and Prema will manifest in the heart of those devotees who take part in such satsang programs. So this is the greatness of hearing about Lord again and again. So with that intention, Lord Krishna speaks. Now in the second verse, Lord Krishna gives the reason why he is speaking. The Lord speaks in order to show that this knowledge is difficult to understand and without the mercy of his devotees. This knowledge is difficult to understand without the mercy of devotees. With that intention, Lord Krishna speaks. Second verse. Name vidu suragana prabhavam na maharshaya aham adirihi devanam maharshinam cha sarvasha.
Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages.
So here, na me vidu suragana prabhavam na maharshaya. Prabhavam means it is about my potencies, it is about my activities, it is about my farm name, etc. 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 Janma karma cha medevyam, basically that janma and karma that can be taken into this prabhavam. Namay vidu suragana prabhavam na maharshaya. Whether the devatas or the great sages does not know about my birth and activities. Why? Aham adirhi devana maharshinam cha sarvacha. Because it is I who created the devatas and the great sages. Thus, the devatas or the great sages cannot know about my birth and activities on their own. Then how they can know? They can know when if I say. They can know if I describe about my birth and activities. The only way to understand about the Supreme Lord is to hear from him. Otherwise, we cannot know on ourselves. So with that intention, Lord Krishna speaks about himself in chapter 10. So in the purport, in the middle of the first paragraph, Prabhupada writes, no one can understand why this Supreme God comes to earth as an ordinary human being and executes such wonderful uncommon activities. One should know then that scholarship is not the qualification necessary to understand Krishna. Even the demigods and the great sages have tried to understand Krishna by their mental speculation, and they have failed to do so. In Srimad Bhagavatam also it is clearly said that even the great demigods are not able to understand Supreme Personality of Godhead. They can speculate to the limits of their imperfect senses and can reach the opposite conclusion of impersonalism, of something not manifested by the three qualities of material nature. Or they can imagine something as by mental speculation, but it is not possible to understand Krishna by such foolish speculation. There is no other means by which one can understand the Supreme Lord unless until other than hearing from the Supreme Lord directly. Either by hearing from Supreme Lord or from his bona fide representatives. There is no other way to understand the Supreme Lord. That is what it is indicated here in this purport. And the next purport in the next paragraph in the middle, Prabhupada says, we can actually understand Krishna, who is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, simply by studying his words in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The conception of God as some ruling power or the impersonal Brahman can be reached by persons who are in the inferior energy of the Lord. But the personality of Godhead cannot be conceived unless one is in the transcendental position. It is only by coming to mode of goodness and taking shelter of the devotees of the Supreme Lord and by rendering devotional service, one cannot understand about the true position of the Supreme Lord. Because most men cannot understand Krishna in his actual situation, out of his causeless mercy, he descends to show favor to such speculators. So, in order to show his mercy upon us, Lord comes here and reveals the knowledge about himself. So, with that intention, Lord Krishna speaks this verse. My appearance can be known only by my unprecedented mercy and by no other means. The Devatas do not know my most extraordinary birth, Prabhavam, extraordinary birth, Divya Janma from Devaki. So Devatas cannot understand about my extraordinary birth that I have taken from Devaki. Well, the Devatas may not know because they are absorbed in material pleasure, but the sages know. But Lord says that even the great sages also do not know. Na Maharshaya, because I am the cause of all of them in all respects. They do not know about my birth, just as the sons cannot know about the birth of the father, unless until the father tells about his birth to them, they will not know about one's father's birth. So, like that. So, with this intention, Lord Krishna talks about this verse. And then, but it is not that no one knows. Some people actually know about Lord's birth and activities. In special cases, those who receive Lord's mercy. So, who will receive my mercy and who will not receive my mercy? That is mentioned in the verse number 3. But certainly the Devatas and Rishis know about your present birth, for you are unlimited by all time and space. Some, Lord Krishna says, however, does have this knowledge of me. With this intention, he speaks. Yo mamajam anadim cha vettiloka maheshwaram asammuda samarteshu sarvapapai pramuchyate.
He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all the worlds, he only, undeluded among men, is freed from all sins.
So here, who can understand me and who cannot understand me? These two things are mentioned. Yomam ajam anadimcha. Those who know that I am unborn, I am beginningless. And also Loka Maheshwaram, the Lord of all the planetary systems. Asam Muda. By knowing this, one does not remain as a Muda, not foolish, but knowledgeable. Samarteshu, such kind of human beings. Sarva Papai Pramuchyate. They'll get rid of all the sinful reactions and then come to me. Pra Muchyate. Praktushta Rupena Muktir Uchyate. They will get mukti in a special way. That is, they come to me and become my eternal associates. So indirectly, Lord Krishna says that those who understand about my birth and by maternal nature, they are qualified to come to me. Others who cannot understand this, or others who don't have any faith about these things, then they will not come to me. They will stay back in this material world as Martya. So this is how the two things are mentioned in this verse. So Prabhupada writes in the first paragraph in the middle, one who can come to the understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the proprietor of everything, the unborn, the most successful spiritual realized person. In that stage only, when one has fully understood Krishna's supreme position, can one be free completely from all sinful reactions. So this is the meaning of the verse. So when one understands about Krishna, he is unborn, he is the Lord of everything, the source of everything, then one will go back to Godhead. So then Prabhupada in the next paragraph refers to 4th chapter, wherein Lord Krishna spoke that about his transcendental birth and activities. Ajopisan, Abhyatma, Bhutanam, Mishwaropisan. So in that verse, Lord Krishna spoke about how, though he is unborn, he takes birth again and again in order to perform many of the spiritual activities as per the necessity of the time and place and circumstances. But he says that taking shelter of his own spiritual potency, he appears again and again in this material world. Prakriti Sam Adhishtaya Sambhavami Atma Maya. Like that he appears because there is a need to appear, so he appears. But his birth is not like our birth. He appears with his Atma Maya, Yoga Maya potency, not like Mahamaya potency. So like that, Lord Krishna talks about, Prabhupada talks about various aspects in this purpose. But in the next page, in the second paragraph, Prabhupada mentions that one should try to understand Krishna as a human being. As stated previously, only a foolish person thinks him to be a human being. This is again expressed here in different way. A man who is not foolish, who is intelligent enough to understand the constitutional position of Godhead, is always free from all sinful reactions. So though Lord Krishna appears in human form as the son of Devaki or son of Yashoda, but he always remains as a transcendental personality. Only one who knows this is qualified to go back home back to Godhead. So then in the next paragraph in the middle, Prabhupada talks that, therefore, if at all we want our activities, this is in the middle of the paragraph, if at all we want our activities to be auspicious, then we should work under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Such directions are given in the authoritative scriptures such as Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, are from a bona fide spiritual master, because the spiritual master is the representative of Supreme Lord. His direction is directly the direction of the Supreme Lord. So what is the Lord's direction we can understand in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and the import of those directions we get it from a bona fide representative of Supreme Lord, that is spiritual masters. So when they explain Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, we can clearly understand who the Supreme Lord is and what road Supreme Lord indicating us to execute and attain as our goal. So thus Lord Krishna speaks in this verse saying that I am actually Ajam, I am unborn. What Lord Krishna want to indicate that he is unborn here? He is different from the unconscious material products. By saying that I am Ajam, Lord says that I am different from everything that is there in the material world, which is unconscious. I am different from the matter in the material world. And also he says that I am different from any being in the universe with material bodies. I am different from all the living entities who are living in this material world with the material bodies. That means who are identifying with their material bodies, which have a beginning, and by transformation which also have an end. The material objects in this material world and our material body has a beginning and an end, because it has born someday and it will end someday. This building, this particular construction also has a beginning, will have an end. So I am different from all those things because I am Ajam. All of them have a Janma and Mrityu, but I don't have. And then Lord says in the next word, Anadim. So he is without beginning. He is different from all the liberated souls as well. So when Lord says that he is different from conditioned souls and is different from material matter, then is he equal to liberated souls? Then Lord says no, he is different from liberated souls also. How? The liberated souls are without birth now, but their liberated state has a beginning. So when you say somebody is liberated, that means before they becoming liberated, they must have gone through the birth and death, and by executing sadhana, they must have become liberated. Those who are sadhana siddhas, in comparison to them, Lord says that I am anadi, I have no beginning. But the liberated state of liberated souls has a beginning. Before that, they were conditioned. In that way, they have some beginning, but I don't have such kind of beginning. And then he says that somebody may ask question. No. Then the Nityasiddhyas, who don't have any beginning of their liberated state, they were beginning from the very beginning of the creation. If the Lord is one among them, then Lord says that Lokamaheshwaram. The Lord is also different from the eternally liberated souls, as well as being different from Prakriti and time. He is not even Prakriti, is not even time. They have no birth and are without beginning. They have no birth and they are without beginning. The eternal liberated souls and Prakriti and time, these three have no birth and no beginning. But they do not have lordship over all the worlds. They don't have the lordship over material and spiritual worlds. But I have lordship over both material and spiritual worlds. Thus, I am different from the material, the matter, the conditioned souls, then sadhaka siddhas and the nitya siddhas, and prakriti and time, and different from all these things. It is only he who knows that I am different from all these things. He is qualified to come to my spiritual abode and is qualified to become my eternal associate. It is who does not know all these things or who had some doubt about all these things will remain in this material world, going through repeated cycle of birth and death. Then Lord Krishna further continues, placing his index finger on his chest, Lord Krishna speaks, he who knows that I am without birth and I am beginningless is free from sin. He who knows that I am unborn and also born to Vasudeva and I am still without beginning is freed from all sins. Lord Krishna further says, I take birth, but because I am Paramatma, I am eternally without birth. I take birth as the son of Devaki, as the son of Yashoda, as the son of Aditi, like that. I take birth again and again, but I am without birth because I am Paramatma also. Both these conditions are absolute truth. Lord taking birth is absolute truth. Lord not taking birth is also absolute truth. It is a demonstration of Lord's Achinta Shakti. The Lord has said, Ajopisa Nave Atma, Sambhavami Atma Maya. Though I am unborn, I appear with my internal potency. So both are absolute truth. So then Lord Krishna gives an example. In my childhood, it is inconceivable that I could be bound by strings of bells. Every day, Mother Yashoda, after waking up Lord Krishna, would dress him very nicely and decorate him with so many jewelry. Mother Yashoda would would put so many garments. So across his Lord Krishna's neck, across Lord Krishna's waist, she would put ankle bells across his feet. So these things she would do every day very normally, very casually, without any problem. But the same Mother Yashoda could not bind Lord Krishna with the ropes on one particular Diwali day when Lord Krishna did naughty thing. So normally every day Mother Yashoda could naturally put the garments and the jewelry and garlands across Lord Krishna's neck and waist and ankles. But on this particular day, she could not bind the same Lord Krishna with unlimited ropes of Goshala. This is Achin Shakti. In the same way, my birth and non-birth are also inconceivable. I take birth and also yet I do not take birth. The Lord then speaks of his powers, which are hard to understand. He who knows that, though I am your chariot driver, here Arjuna, Lord Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. Though I am your chariot driver, I am also the great controller of the planets, Lokamaheshwaram. He alone, he who knows this alone, is not bewildered among men and is free from all sins. That means Lord Krishna is the one who understands this, my inconceivable nature, is freed from all sins and is qualified to come to my spiritual abode. But he who thinks that he is being born or he is being controller is just a semblance of birth and master, is bewildered and is not freed from all sins. One who thinks that all these things are metaphorical, such kind of person is full of sin and he does not become liberated. So thus, Lord Krishna indicates in this verse that who is qualified to become my eternal associate and who is qualified to remain in this material world. So thus, in the three verses, Lord Krishna indicates the greatness of that knowledge which he is trying to present in the 10th chapter. So Hare Krishna, anyone has any query?
Hare Krishna.
Nice, Prabhu.
You said that Lord is unborn and beginningless and is different from the liberated soul.
Hmm.
So what does that mean? They have a beginning, because all the soul jivas are also eternal, and we heard that we don't have a beginning.
Hmm. See, in this paragraph, it is clearly mentioned. The meaning of Ajam is, he is different from the unconscious material products. The matter which we are familiar with in this material world has a beginning and an end. The house in which you are living has a beginning date and it will also have a end date. On one day it will be collapsed and the new house will be constructed there. And similarly, the body in which we are living and we are identifying with that body. Though Atma is eternal, but as long as we live in this body, we identify with that body. So currently, all of us will, I think, we say that we are human beings. We are male or female or with so many other identities. Because that identity comes from that body, which has a beginning and an end. So from that conception, Lord is Ajam. He is unborn. Then one may say that no, okay. A conditioned soul, because they are identifying with the body, they have a beginning. But a liberated soul is liberated. He has no identity with the matter. If the Lord is same as them, then Lord says, no, I am not same as them. Because when you say somebody is liberated, their liberated state is as a beginning. They have become liberated by the execution of sadhana. Thus they have become sadhana siddhas. So before being liberated, they were taking birth again and again in this material world. So their liberation has a beginning, but Lord has no beginning. That is why it is said Adanadim. Then somebody may say that no, there are some eternally liberated beings. They are called Nitya Siddhas. So they were always existing along with the Lord. Then Lord says, yes, they were always existing along with the Lord. Not only they, even Prakriti and Kala were always existing along with the Lord. But they can never say that they are the proprietors of the material and spiritual worlds. It is only Lord who can say that he is the proprietor of both material and spiritual world. So Lord Krishna is actually indicating who is he in relation to everything that is existing other than him. The spiritual world, the material world, the Nitya Siddhas, the Sadhana Siddhas, and the conditioned living entities. So in this way, he is giving the knowledge about all these things in one verse.
So in the sense, they are not the proprietor. That's why he is different from them.
Yes, obviously.
But they are also eternally present.
Yeah, they are also eternal.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Then we'll go to the next two verses. The two verses are combined together. So even those, Hare Krishna, someone want to say something? even those who are knowledgeable of scriptures cannot know about me by their intelligence. Even those who study Vedic literature by their own study cannot know the Supreme Lord. Because intelligence and other elements are generated from the material gunas like sattva, goodness, passion, and ignorance. By taking shelter of material intelligence and material knowledge, one cannot understand about me. Since they all originate in me, in themselves, they are not suitable for understanding about me, who am beyond the gunas. The list of items in next two verses is given to show this. In two verses, Lord Krishna expounds his status as the origin of all and the Lord of all, mentioned in verse number 3. Buddhirjnanam asammoham Kshama satyam damashama Sukam dukkam bhavo bhavo Bhayam cha bhayameva cha Ahimsa samata tushtis Tapodanam yasho yashaha Bhavanti bhava bhutanam Matta eva prudakvida.
Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame and infamy. All these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone.
So by telling all these things, Lord Krishna indicating two things. One thing is, all these things are stemming forth from me. All these qualities, all these states of existences are actually manifesting from me. This is one thing. The second thing is that just by taking shelter of all these so-called good qualities of this world, one cannot understand me. All acquisition of all these wonderful qualities is not the necessary and sufficient qualification to understand me, because it is I who create all of them and it is I who exist superior to them. By taking shelter of these inferior qualities, one cannot understand me. So this is the indication of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in these two verses. So here in it is actually huge purport. So Prabhupada actually talks about each and every aspect of the quality mentioned in this verse. One paragraph Prabhupada talks about one item. So like that, may 2.5 pages purports are there. So Prabhupada talks about all these things. In essence, what it means, I have presented in a couple of slides. We just see what it means each and every word. Buddhi means the ability to make the subtle distinctions. Ability to understand what is what. Intelligence refers to the power to analyze things in their proper perspective. And jnana means to distinguish spiritual form from material form, chit from achit. To distinguish spiritual from material, to understand what is spiritual and what is material, that is jnana. Prabhupada says knowledge refers to understanding what is spirit and what is matter. Asammoha is the absence of confusion. Kshama is tolerance. Satyam is to speak for others' benefit, things as they really are. Satyam means truthful. We should speak truth as it is for the benefit of others. Dama means restraining senses from the useless sense objects. Shama means control of the flickering mind. Sukha means regarding something as favorable. If something is favorable, from that we experience sukha. Dukkha is regarding something as unfavorable. If something is unfavorable, we experience misery from that. Bhava means taking birth, and avabhava means going through death. Bhaya means fear. which arises from regarding something as future cause of suffering. When we see something that this is going to create future suffering, we become fearful of that. Abhaya is the absence of that fear. Ahimsa is not giving pain to other entities. So this is a special quality. So Prabhupada actually elaborates on this particular aspect. In the next page, in the middle, Prabhupada writes, Ahimsa, non-violence, means that one should not do anything which will put others into misery or confusion. Ahimsa means that people should be trained in such a way that the full utilization of the human body can be achieved. The human body is meant for spiritual realization. So any movement or any commissions which do not further that and commit violence to human body. So any activity that stops our spiritual progress is called violence. That which furthers the future spiritual happiness of the people in general is called non-violence. So in that way, Ahimsa is described. Samatha is being devoid of attraction and repulsion. Tushti, the satisfaction and attaining whatever comes according to one's karma. Tapa is bodily suffering, voluntarily accepting bodily discomforts that as prescribed in the Vedic literature. Not doing on one's own whims and desires, but following the scriptures and practicing the voluntary austerities is called tapasya. Dana is offering one's enjoyable items to a qualified person. Not offering the excess things, but instead offering one's enjoyable items to the qualified. Yasha means being known for good qualities. And Ayasha is the opposite, being known for bad qualities. So these are the definition of various items. So in total, Lord Krishna mentions about 18, 19, 20 items in these two verses. These are all 20 qualities which are actually very wonderful, very glorious. People of this world are recommended to follow all these things. But Lord Krishna says, just by following or just by having all these qualities, one cannot understand me. Intelligence, buddhi, discerning the fine meaning of things, knowledge, jnana, ability to distinguish between atma and non-atma, and asamoha, non-bewilderment, divide or perplexity. These are the three important out of the 20 qualities. And Lord Krishna says, though these three are regarded as the causing knowledge of me, they are not really cause of that knowledge. One may say that those who have buddhi, jnana and asamoha will know the Supreme Lord. But just by having all these three does not get the real understanding of knowledge. And all the items mentioned in these two verses, the 20 of the items, are actually stemming forth from three modes of material nature, sattva, raja and tama. And some of these qualities can be seen as sattvic, some of them are rajasic, some of them are tamasic. So which are sattvic, which are rajasic, which are tamasic are mentioned here. Sattvic are tolerance to speak the truth, control of the external and internal senses, dama, sama, sakshama, satyam, happiness, fearlessness arising from knowledge, it is in sattvic mode, non-violence, seeing others as oneself, samata, unconditional satisfaction, that satisfaction without conditions, and austerity without condition, charity without condition, fame and name without conditions is in sattva. So these are all the things are in sattva. And fearlessness can be tamasic. The conditional satisfaction or conditional austerity, conditional charity, conditional fame and infame, they are all in rajasic. If they are without condition, these things without condition, they are sattvic. If they are with some condition, they are rajasic. And fearlessness, a person in passion also may say that I am fearless, but that is not the actual fearlessness. Fearlessness from the point of view that Lord Krishna will take care of me everything. That is in Tattva. Tamasic, going through sorrow, going through birth, death, fear, fearlessness. These are all tamasic. When satisfaction is conditional, austerity and charity, fame and infame are also in conditional. That is also tamasic. All these arise from my energy. Because of the non-difference of the energy and the source of energy, the energetic, it is said that they arise from me. Though they are actually arising from three modes, the three modes are Lord's energies. Thus, they are said to be arising from Supreme Lord. All such states of living entities with differing qualities arise from me, from my will. I alone am their cause. Thus, I will not be known from simply cultivating them. So, this is how Lord Krishna indicates that just by practicing all these qualities, one does not know me, because they are all stemming from me. Just like Devatas and Rishis does not know me, all these good qualities also does not know me or does not give the knowledge about me. So that is how Lord Krishna indicates his connection with all these good qualities. Now Lord Krishna further continues. He says that not having mentioned that intelligence, knowledge and non-bewilderment, now having mentioned that intelligence, knowledge and non-bewilderment cannot give real knowledge of the Lord, he now states that these things cannot give true knowledge of the Supreme Lord. So that is mentioned in the 6th verse. Maharshaya saptapurve chatvaro manavastata madbhava manasa jata esham loka imam praja.
The 7 great sages, and before them the 4 other great sages, and the Manus, progenitors of mankind, come from me. Born from mind, and all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them.
So then Lord Krishna talks about the proponents of all these good qualities, the different people who propound these good qualities. So about them, the details are mentioned here. So here Lord says that Maharshaya Saptapurve, the 7 Saptarishis, Pulaha, Kratu, Vasishta, Bhrugu, Atri, Marichi, these like the great sages who are born at the beginning from Brahma, the 7 Maharshis, and before them Chatvaro, the 4 Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara, who are born before Saptarishis, and after them Manavastata, the 14 Manus. There are 14 Manus for the 14 Manvantaras who are great personalities. Madbhava Manasa Jata. They were all born from my mind. Though Bhagavatam talks about their being born from the mind of Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma being born from the Supreme Lord's navel, so Lord says that they are all being born from my mind, because Lord Brahma is the empowered representation of Supreme Lord from that day. Madbhava, having accepted my transcendental bhakti, having understood my transcendental nature, Esham Loka Imam Praja, they have become the progenitors of this world in both ways, by becoming the fathers of all the living entities and by becoming the gurus of all the living entities. And these people only by rendering bhakti unto me will know about me and will be able to become qualified to teach others about me. They are the people who propagate the knowledge about Supreme Lord in this material world. So these are the different people. Only by the mercy of Supreme Lord, Mad Bhava indicates only by taking shelter of the Supreme Lord, by executing bhakti, they will be able to teach about me. Otherwise, they will only teach about the so-called superficial qualities of the material world. So in that way, Lord indicates. The same thing continues in the next verse also. But according to my own statement, I can be attained only by pure bhakti. Bhaktyaham ekaya grahya. Only my Ananya Bhakta, receiving firm faith in my words by my mercy, know the truth about me. This verse states the rule of that knowledge of the subject of Vibhuti. So by knowing what a person can be called as Ananya Bhakta, and a person can know about the Supreme Lord. So by which the personality is mentioned in, by what the personality is mentioned in the previous verse, knew about the Supreme Lord. So that is indicated in this 7th verse. By knowing what a person becomes qualified for representative of the Supreme Lord. Evam vibhutim yogam cha mama yo veti tatvatah so vikalpena yogena yujyate natra samshaya.
One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there is no doubt.
So in this verse, Lord Krishna talks about the result of knowing the vibhutis of the Supreme Lord. Result of that knowledge of the vibhutis of the Supreme Lord. So what will happen to a person knowing about Lord's vibhutis? Evam vibhutim yogam cha mamayo veti tatvatah. One who knows me in truth, tatvatah. What is about me? About my vibhutis and about my bhakti. The process of attaining me. Those who knows about my powers, those who knows about the process of attaining me. So avikalpena yogena, by executing in that avikalpa yoga, by in that devotional service, yujjate na atra samshaya, they will attain me without any doubt, or they will engage in my devotional service without any doubt. One who understands about my powers, one who understands about my bhakti in tatvatah, without any doubt, they will execute that bhakti, and executing that bhakti, one will come to me. This is the understanding of this verse. Here Prabhupada writes in the purport, the highest summit of spiritual perfection is knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless one is firmly convinced of the different opulence of the Supreme Lord, he cannot engage in devotional service. Certainly, generally, people know that God is great, but they do not know in detail how God is great. Here are the details. The details are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. If one knows factually how God is great, then naturally he becomes a surrendered soul and engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord. When one factually knows the opulence of the Supreme Lord, there is no alternative but to surrender to him. This factual knowledge can be known from the descriptions in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and other similar literature. So that is what Lord Krishna indicates here. By knowing about my powers, the vibhutis which I am describing in 7th chapter, 9th chapter and 10th chapter, and by knowing about that bhakti, executing which one can obtain me, that which Lord Krishna talking about in 7th chapter, 8th, 9th chapter and 8th, 9th, 10th, all these chapters, without any doubts or getting rid of all the doubts, one executes my bhakti. Avikalpena yogena yujyate. One renders in my undeviated one-pointed bhakti, Ananya Bhakti. So that is the meaning of this verse. Here Lord Krishna says, he who knows the vibhutis of which I will speak in summary in the next 4 verses, or vibhutis which I will speak in summary in the next verse and also in the later part of the chapter, and who knows Bhakti Yoga, etam vibhutim yogam cha. He who knows the vibhutis of which I will speak in summary now in the next verse, and who knows Bhakti Yoga, which I also will speak in the next verses, who then becomes endowed with even stronger faith, thinking that this alone is the highest truth. This is alone the highest truth, Tatvataha, because my master Lord Krishna has spoken this, had said so, becomes endowed with unwavering bhakti yoga, which is characterized by knowledge of my true nature, yogena. Thus, there is no doubt about this. This is the essence. In essence, what kind of result one will gain by hearing the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita, which are explained in the next 4 verses. So basically, Lord Krishna gives Falashruti before speaking the 4 verses of the essence of Bhagavad Gita, 8, 9, 10, 11. The result is one who understands about my vibhutis, which he will speak in the next 4 verses, and one who understands about my bhakti, which he will speak in the next 4 verses, will execute my bhakti without any doubt. Here in this verse, yoga refers to my connection with the jewels of auspicious qualities, such as having no beginning and having no birth. He who knows this vibhuti, that is power and knowledge, which maintain and activate the world, and this yoga, the qualities of the Supreme Lord, who receives them with strong faith, thinking they are true, because they are spoken by me, becomes endowed with steady bhakti yoga from me. One understands these two things, vibhuti and yoga, one engages in study yoga, study bhakti yoga, without any doubts. Knowledge of me related to such things gives rise to and increases devotion to me. So this is the result of knowing about vibhutis and yoga of the Supreme Lord. So what happens? One gets the knowledge. This knowledge gives rise to the practice of bhakti and also increases the amount of practice of bhakti. That is indicated in the previous verse. Anyone has any query till now? Now from 8 to 11, Lord Krishna speaks about the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. Specifically talks about the vibhutis of Supreme Lord in summary and the yoga, that yoga refers to bhakti yoga in summary. So which helps one to start bhakti or increase bhakti. This is the connection from 7 to the future 4 verses. Anyone has any query? Okay. So now in this verse, Lord Krishna says, describing the bhakti belonging to the highest devotees in the 4 verses 8 to 11, 8, 9, 10, 11, not 12. The Lord describes the real nature of himself. His vibhuti is characterized by great power, which generate and nourish that bhakti. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattam sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita.
I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Okay. Here Lord Krishna is beginning his Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. So before discussing the meaning of this verse, I'll read one paragraph from the 7th verse purport. This is the last paragraph which gives the connection to the next 4 verses. There are some of the opulence of the Supreme Lord. Sorry, these are some of the opulence of Supreme Lord. When one is firmly convinced of them, he accepts Krishna with great faith and without any doubt. And he engages in devotional service. All this particular knowledge is required in order to increase one's interest in the loving devotional service of the Lord. One should not neglect to understand fully how Lord Krishna is, for by knowing the greatness of Krishna, one will be able to be fixed in sincere devotional service. So Prabhupada said that one should be eager to understand about Lord Krishna, knowing which one will increase one's bhakti unto Supreme Personality of Godhead. So with that intention, one should know about Lord Krishna more and more. So here Lord Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. I am the source of everything. By my presence as Paramatma in this world, the entire world is operating. So these two lines talks about the vibhuti of the Supreme Lord. So in the previous verse, 7th verse, if you see in your books, Etam vibhutim yogam cha. It is only those who know about my vibhutis and those who know about my yoga. So we should know about Lord's vibhutis and we should know about Lord's yoga in summary. So in the first two lines, Lord Krishna talks about vibhutis. In the next two lines talks about yoga. What is vibhuti? Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. He says that I am the source of everything and it is by my presence everything in the material world is operating. Matta sarvam pravartate. By me only everything is operating. This is Lord's vibhuti. This is Lord's powers. This is the knowledge about the Supreme Lord. And then what is that yoga? Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. One who understands this with faith, they will execute devotional service unto me by engaging their intelligence in those devotional activities. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. By engaging their mind, intelligence, chetana, everything, they will execute that devotional service unto me. This is about yoga, that Ananya Yoga. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me and everything operates by my presence. The wise who perfectly know this engages in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Here Lord Krishna is there. From him comes all the spiritual worlds, Vaikuntha Lokas, and from him comes all the material worlds. But in the material world, those who worship Supreme Lord will, those who understand about Lord's position as this, will engage in his devotional service. So basically, this verse indicates that we should have proper knowledge about who Krishna is and how we are connected with him. That proper understanding will help us engage bhakti without any doubts. I am the cause of the existence and manifestation of both material and spiritual worlds. Prabhava. Aham sarvasya prabhava. By me alone, as Paramatma, the whole material world operates. Mattam sarvam. They are the two aspects of the Supreme Lord. I am the source of everything, and by me alone, everything is operating. By me alone, as avatars like Narada, the four Kumaras like Brahma, all the spiritual sadhanas such as bhakti, jnana, tapas, and karma, and the goals of these sadhanas operate. Sarvam pravartate. These are my vibhutis. See my vibhutis. So this is the essence of the first two lines. By me alone, as avatars like Narada, the four Kumaras, and others such as Brahma, all the spiritual sadhanas such as bhakti, jnana, tapasya, karma, and their respective goals in the form of prema bhakti, or service to Supreme Lord in Vaikuntha or Golak Vrindavan, or impersonal liberation, or going to Swarga, etc., etc. And the goals of such and goals of are called as vibhutis. He then describes the yoga, that is Ananya Bhakti, in the next two lines. Convinced by this knowledge, iti matva, with faith, the intelligent people endowed with bhava in dasya, sakya, vasalya, and madhurya rasa worship me. With a desire to become my eternal associate in one of the higher rasas, dasya, sakya, vasalya, or madhurya, they worship me in Ananya Bhakti. So this is the meaning of this verse. But Srila Prabhupada, quoting various Upanishads and various Vedas, he proves that how Lord Krishna is the source of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. In order to establish the meaning of the first phrase, Srila Prabhupada takes reference from various Upanishads and Vedas. So we'll see all the references. Prabhupada actually quotes about 9 references. All the references are summarized in this next 2, 3 slides. Aham Sarvasya Prabhu, the meaning is I am Swayam Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, the cause of everything, the cause of whole material manifestation headed by Brahma and Shiva. Atharva Veda says that Yo Brahmanam Vidadati Purvam Yo Vai Vedamsha Gapayati Sma Krishna. Krishna alone, it is he who previously creates Brahma and makes him sing the Vedas. It is Brahma alone who actually created Brahma. It is Krishna alone who created Brahma. It is Krishna who gave Brahma that knowledge of the Vedas, so that Brahma continues to sing that knowledge. So that is what is mentioned here. So this is from Gopala Tapani Upanishad 1:22. This is mentioned in Atharva Veda. Then Prabhupada quotes, Ata Purusho Havai Narayano Akamyata Praja Srujate. It means then the Purusha Narayana desire to create. At the beginning, Ata Purusho Havai Narayano Akamayata Praja Srujate. He desired to create at the beginning, because that means that indicates that he is the creator. Then how did he create? Narayanat Brahma Jayate, Narayanat Prajapati Prajayate, Narayanat Indro Jayate, Narayanat Ashtav Vasavo Jayate, Narayanat Ekadasha Rudra Jayate, Narayanat Dvadashaditya Jayate. Like that, from Narayana, this manifest, that manifest, everything is manifested from Narayana. From Narayana, Brahma was born, Shiva was born, Indra was born, 8 Vasus were born, 11 Rudras were born, and 12 Adityas were born. Like that, everyone were born from Narayana alone. This is from Tripada Vibhuti Upanishad. So this Tripada Vibhuti Upanishad indicates that all these people were born from Lord Narayana. But that means Narayana is the source of all these people. And Narayana desired to create. That means the universe is also created by Lord Narayana. That means Lord Narayana existed before the creation and before the creation of all the devatas. And Atma Bodha Upanishad says that Brahmanyo Devaki Putra. Brahman, the supreme absolute truth, is the son of Devaki. Eko vai Narayana Asin na Brahmana Ishano na Po Nagni Samau Neme Dhyau Aprutvi na Nangsha Nakshatrani na Surya sa Ekaki na Ramate Tasya Dhyayantasya Tomam Uchate. It says that only Narayana existed, not Brahma, nor Shiva, nor Varuna, nor Agni, nor heaven and earth, nor the constellations, nor the sun. He does not enjoy alone. He is the subject of meditation and is called the Stomam, the verse of praise. Is glorified by Somaveda, etc. etc. Basically, this one phrase is very important. He does not enjoy alone. That means even before the creation of this material world, the spiritual world was eternally existing. In the eternal spiritual world, Lord Vishnu is not alone. Lord Narayana is not alone. He eternally exists with his eternal devotees, and with them he continuously enjoys. That is what is indicated here. Then further says that Narayana meditated with his mind. From his meditation, the person with a third eye, that is Lord Shiva, and trident in his hand was born, possessing wealth, truth, celibacy, austerity, and renunciation. Lord Shiva was born possessing wealth, truth, celibacy, austerity, and renunciation. This is from Maha Upanishad, verse number 1. Then it is mentioned that Swabhava. Then he mentioned that Chaturmukho Jayate. Brahma appears from Lord Narayana himself. Not only Lord Shiva, Even Lord Brahma also appeared from Lord Narayana. Yam kamyate tam tam ugram krishnomi tam rama ramhanam tam rushim tam samudesham. This is from Rigveda. It says that I make the man whom I love exceedingly mighty. Lord says that I make that man whom I love exceedingly mighty. I make him a wise man, exceedingly knowledgeable, and I make him a sage, and I make him a Brahma. It is I who make a person powerful, who make a person knowledgeable, who make a person saintly, and who make a person whom I make as Brahma. It is I who make everyone as they are. Under my supervision only everyone existing as they are. It is I who make someone Devata, it is I who make someone Rishi, it is I who make someone Brahma. Prajapatinam cha rudram cha api aham eva srujami vai tauhi mam va vijananti mama maya vimohita. He says that I alone create Brahma, I alone create Shiva. Being bewildered by Maya, they do not know me. This is from Moksha Dharma. So basically, Lord Krishna, in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is quoting various verses saying that how Lord himself is the source of everything, and how Lord made everyone as they are, and how Lord gives the knowledge of everyone. Finally, this is like final reference. It says that Narayana is the supreme Lord, and from him Brahma was born, from whom Shiva was born. The Devatas attained all knowledge from him alone. So from all these verses, the Lord is indicated as the source of everyone. What is said in this verse is that the Lord is both the material and efficient cause of everything other than himself. Whatever arises from me acts because of me. All of their operations depend on me because I am the controller of everything. Knowing me as such, that I am the source and the controller, at the cause and the controller of all, confining this through the mouth of Guru, being filled with prema, the intelligent person worships me and comes to my spiritual abode. So this first verse talks about Lord's potencies and then the result of knowing Lord's potencies, that is execution of devotional service. Now in the next verse, it is mentioned about how one executes Lord's devotional service, how one executes Ananya Bhakti. And we will discuss this 9th verse and we'll stop for today, and we'll discuss the remaining 2 verses of Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita tomorrow's morning class. Such Ananya Bhaktas who have attained spiritual intelligence, that is Buddhi Yoga, by my mercy attain factual knowledge of me mentioned previously, which is hard to understand. This verse describes the process of execution of that Ananya Bhakti. Matchita Madgata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Katayantascha Mam Nityam Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha.
The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me.
So these are the various things that devotees do, and also the result they get by doing this. So both things are mentioned. Matchita Madgata Prana. Matchita means their chitta is in me, their consciousness is in me always. Madgata Prana, they consider me as their life and soul. Bodhayanta, they talk about me to others. Bodhayanta Parasparam, they discuss with each other about me. Katayantascha, they conduct satsang programs to describe about me. Mam Nityam, they do all these things every day. And while doing all these things, they experience nourishment of their bhakti and joy of performing their bhakti. Tushyanti and Ramanti. Nourishment and joy, both they will get. So these are the various ways in which one executes bhakti, and the benefit one gets is while executing itself, one gets nourishment and one gets joy. So while cooking, Krishna Krishna. While washing or while doing something, polishing or something like washing, Krishna Krishna. While mopping the temple hall, Krishna Krishna. While discussing Krishna Katha, Krishna Krishna. While taking care of the children, singing Krishna Krishna songs, Krishna Krishna. And while distributing books, Krishna Krishna. So like that, they are busy with Krishna 24 hours. Their minds are engaged. Their minds are greedy for my form, name, qualities, pastimes, and sweetness. Mat chitta. Their minds are greedy to contemplate upon, understand about my form, name, qualities, and pastimes, and my sweetness. They are unable to maintain their lives without me. Since they depend upon me, they consider me as their life and soul. They happily explain to each other about types of bhakti and about the real nature of bhakti, about different angas of bhakti, how to execute Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasam, etc. And Nectar of Devotion talks about 64 angas of bhakti. They keep discussing about how to execute this, how to execute that. This is their daily activity. They talk about me. They talk about my form. They talk about my qualities and my pastimes and glorify me always. Since Smaranam, that is referred by Machita, and Shravanam, referred by Bodhayanta, and Kirtanam, referred by Katayanta, are the best among the 9 types of bhakti, among all types of bhakti. Shravanam, Kirtana, Smaranam are best among the 9 types of bhakti, 9 angas of bhakti. They are specifically mentioned in this verse. By bhakti alone, devotees are satisfied and enjoy this. This is the mysterious aspect of bhakti. Even while executing bhakti, one enjoys nourishment and joy. That is the glory of this bhakti. So then in the purport, Sri Prabhupada mentions in the second paragraph, the first paragraph says that pure devotees whose characters are mentioned here engage themselves fully in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord. Their minds cannot be diverted from the lotus feet of Krishna. Their talks are solely in the transcendental subject. These symptoms of the pure devotion service are described in this verse specifically. Then the next paragraph, Prabhupada writes, in the preliminary stage of devotional service, they release the transcendental pleasure from the service itself. And in the mature state, they are actually situated in love of God. So even the preliminary or the mature state, one experiences the love of Godhead. Then Prabhupada in the rest of the paragraph talks about cultivation of the Bhakti Lata seed, taking reference from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So one receives the Bhakti Lata beej from the Guru, and it should be nourished by the process of watering. The watering is called Shravanam and Kirtanam. That is mentioned in this verse. By rendering Shravanam and Kirtanam continuously, the creeper of Bhakti grows, going through all the vanishments of this material world, crossing through the 7 layers of the universe, crossing through Brahman, enters into Vaikuntha, and takes shelter of the lotus feet of Supreme Lord. And that is where it gives flowers and fruits. And devotee, those staying in the material world, relishes the flowers and fruits. The flowers and fruits are referring to Prema Bhakti. That happens. And after relishing for some time here in the material world, after gaining sufficient understanding, one will go to spiritual world and render direct service to Supreme Personality of Godhead. So then, by hearing and reading from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, one understands about how to execute bhakti, and by executing such bhakti, one will become qualified to come back to Godhead and render direct personal service to Supreme Lord. So that is the essence of these verses. In the last 4 lines of the purport, Prabhupada writes, Srimad Bhagavatam is the only narration in which the transcendental nature of Supreme Lord and his devotees is fully described. Thus, the realized souls in Krishna consciousness take continual pleasure in hearing such transcendental literatures, just as a young boy and girl take pleasure in each other's association. So thus Lord Krishna indicated that my devotees constantly describe about my qualities, activities, form, name, etc., etc., by which they relish and enjoy nourishment, enjoy happiness and experience nourishment, and eventually they'll come to me and render direct service unto me. So this is explained in this verse. And the next verse talks about how they will come to me. Here the execution of bhakti is mentioned. In the next two verses, Lord Krishna talks about how such kind of devotee will come to my spiritual abode. That is the connection to the next two verses, which we will discuss tomorrow. So before closing for the day, anyone has any query or anything want to share? Anyone want to share something? Hare Krishna. Somebody is trying to say something, not able to hear.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
You mentioned that the 8th verse speaks about the vibhuti and yoga. But Prabhupada translate the yoga as a mystic power, and in the 8th verse it speaks about the how one engages in the devotional service. So how this considered there is a yoga, or means what you are trying to explain by the word?
I am trying to give a connection from previous verse to current verse, verse number 7 to 8. In the 7th verse, it is said that by knowing about my vibhutis and yoga, etam vibhutim yogam cha, one will execute bhakti. So what it means to understand about Lord's vibhuti and what it means to understand about that yoga, that is mentioned in the 8th verse. Vibhuti is that is explained in the first two lines of this verse. Aham sarvasya prabho mattam sarvam pravartate. And yoga is executing or engaging in my devotional service. Yoga refers to bhakti yoga. That is mentioned in the next two lines. Iti matva bhajantima buddha bhava samnita. Bhajantima means bhakti yoga. So how someone executes bhakti yoga? That is mentioned in the 9th verse. Sadatam kirtayanto mam. That machita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayanta cha mam nityam tushyanti chita manchita. So in that way, that is the connection between these two from the 7th verse.
So the 9th verse is the explanation of the second line of 8th verse.
Matlab, Lord says that bhajanti mam. They execute bhakti. How they execute bhakti? That is the next verse.
Okay. So this 4th verse is considered the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. So how this encapsulate the whole message of Bhagavad Gita in this whole 4 verses means here Lord speaks about only pure devotional service. That's why it's considered Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita, or
that we will discuss tomorrow after the 4th verse.
Okay, so you will discuss tomorrow. Okay.
Remaining two verses are there, na? 9, 10 and 11.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, anyone else want to say something or ask something? In a couple of minutes. I hope I am clear. I am not confusing you. I am not giving different meanings or anything like that. I'm just trying to explain the verses referring to the previous Acharya's commentaries also, so that we'll get some
very clear.
complete understanding. Okay. So then we'll meet again tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. We'll do the remaining two verses and then we'll see something what Arjuna talks about his understanding, what he understood by hearing the previous 9 chapters, starting from 2nd to middle of the 10th. So that we'll discuss tomorrow. And the Vibhutis we'll try to discuss the next class, in the next week. So thus we'll continue ahead with our discussion. Okay, thank you very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We'll meet tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay.